Hello, Miss Garrick's class. I'm Mrs. Ercoli, Olivia's mom, and this is Luna, Olivia's lizard. And we are here to read you The Principal's New Clothes by Stephanie Kelmanson. Stephanie Kelmanson is from New York, and she's written over 100 children's books. Mr. Bundy is the principal of PS 88. He is also the sharpest dresser in town. His students never miss a day of school. They like to see what he is wearing. "Looking good, Mr. B," they always say. Mr. Bundy has so many clothes, he can go a whole month and not wear the same suit twice. Sometimes he changes at lunchtime just to show off. One day, a man and a woman who said they were tailors called on Mr. Bundy. Their card said, "Mo and Ivy, we make suits that suit you fine." But they were not really tailors at all. They were tricksters. "Greetings, Mr. B," said Ivy. "How would you like to buy an amazing, one-of-a-kind suit?" "I have so many suits already," said Mr. Bundy. "Ah, but this is no ordinary suit," said Mo. "It has special powers." "What do you mean?" asked Mr. Bundy. Mo looked to his left. He looked to his right. Then he whispered in Mr. Bundy's ear, "We make our clothes from special cloth. It is invisible to anyone who is no good at his job or just plain stupid." "Really?" said Mr. Bundy. "Yes," said Ivy. "Not only will you look great, but you can find out if anyone in your school is no good at his job or stupid." "That is amazing," cried Mr. Bundy. "Now, if you'll take your jacket off and lift your arms, sir," said Ivy, grinning, "we will take your measurements. We will also take your money," mumbled Mo. The next day, Mo and Ivy set up a workshop in the gym. It was not long before the whole school heard about the amazing cloth and wanted to see it. Students asked to be excused to get a drink of water. Then they ran to the gym to peek. Teacher said they were going next door to borrow chalk. Then they ran to the gym too, but no one could see a thing. By the end of the week, Mr. Bundy began to wonder what his new clothes looked like. But he also was a little worried. What if he could not see the cloth? So he sent his vice principal, Mr. Moore, to have a look. Mr. Moore was smart and good at her job. She would have no trouble seeing the special cloth. Miss Moore hurried to the gym. She knocked on the door. "Mr. Bundy sent me to see his new clothes." She called over the noise of the whirring machines. A moment later, the door opened a crack and Miss Moore slipped inside. "What do you think?" asked Mo. "Have you ever seen anything like it?" Poor Miss Moore, she could not see a thing. "Can it be that I am stupid or unfit for my job?" she wondered. "I've tried so hard to be a good vice principal." She took off her glasses, wiped them, and looked again. But it was no use. Miss Moore had to think fast. If she had told the truth, she might get fired. It's beautiful," she said. "I'm going to tell Mr. Bundy right now how much I like his new clothes." "Your suit is great," Miss Moore told Mr. Bundy. "I've never seen anything like it. And now I've got to run and make a phone call. Bye." She hurried off before Mr. Bundy could ask any questions. Now Mr. Bundy was more curious than ever. He stopped Roger in the hall. Roger was one of the smartest kids in the school. If he couldn't see the suit, nobody could. "Say, Roger," said Mr. Bundy, "do me a favor and find out how my new suit is coming along." Roger couldn't believe his ears. "Wow," he said. "I'll be the first one to see the principal's new clothes. Wait till the class hears about this." And he raced off to the gym. The door was still open, so Roger peeked inside. He could see Mo and Ivy and their sewing machines, hard at work. But he could not see the cloth. "Oh no," Roger thought. "If Mrs. Feeney finds out I can't see his cloth, she'll say I'm stupid. She'll fail me for sure." On the way back to his class, Roger poked his head into Mr. Bundy's office. "Super suit," he said. "What does it look like?" asked Mr. Bundy. "I can't stop now, Mr. B. Mrs. Feeney is giving a test, and I wouldn't want to miss it." Mr. Bundy couldn't stand it any longer. "I'll have to go see for myself." He marched down the hall and walked into the gym. Mr. Bundy looked at the empty machines. He blinked once. He blinked twice. He began to tremble. "How can this be?" he wondered. "Am I really no good at my job?" "Is there anything wrong?" asked Ivy. "Oh, no," said Mr. Bundy. "The suit, it's fantastic. I can't hardly wait to try it on." Mr. Bundy handed Mo and Ivy 2 gold stars to show how much he liked his new suit. "I'd like to wear the suit to the assembly tomorrow," he said, "but I guess it won't be ready." He turned to go. "Yes, it will," said Mo. "We will work on it all night and bring it to your house in the morning." That night, Mr. Bundy dreamed cold and drafty dreams. Early the next morning, Mo and Ivy appeared holding their empty hangers in the air. Ivy waited in the other room while Mo helped Mr. Bundy put on his new clothes. "You must be careful stepping into the pants," he said. "The cloth is very delicate." Ivy tried not to look at Mr. Bundy. "Aren't your new clothes liked?" she asked. "It's almost like having nothing on at all, isn't it?" Mr. Bundy stared at himself in the mirror. He prayed the rest of the world was smarter and fitter than he. "Are you coming to this assembly?" asked Mr. Bundy. "Thanks, but no thanks," said Ivy. "We have a bus to catch. And now, if you could pay us, we'll just run along." Mo handed Mr. Bundy the bill. Mr. Bundy handed Mo a great deal of money. On the way to school, Mr. Bundy's neighbors all raved about the clothes they did not see. After all, they did not want their friends to find out that they were stupid or no good at their jobs. Mr. Bundy walked into the auditorium. As he walked down the aisle, he could hear whispers all around him. Mr. Bundy thought he must be the only stupid person in town. Suddenly, a kindergarten child called out, "The principal's in his underwear!" That did it. Everyone burst out laughing. The truth had been told. Mr. Bundy and the teachers and students knew they had been tricked. No one had been willing to tell the truth because they were worried about what others would think of them. Mr. Bundy stood on stage, red in the face, knees shaking from the chill, but not for long. The kids and teachers wanted to help Mr. Bundy. They began passing up shirts and sweatpants, jackets and ties and caps. Soon, Mr. Bundy had a new suit. "Looking good, Mr. B," called Roger from the back row. Mr. Bundy called the kindergarten child up onto stage. He shook her hand and gave her a gold star. "Thank you for telling the truth, Alice," he said. Everyone cheered. They knew Mr. Bundy was smart and good at his job, and they all agreed. Mr. Bundy was still the sharpest dresser in town. Thanks for listening.